Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is we live? Is we live? Is we live? Yes, you're now tuned into the Rare Podcast. And of course, I'm your host with the most, NK, aka the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. We are back in 2025, first edition of the Rare Podcast of the year. I've missed you guys. Hopefully you've missed me. And we're starting it off with a bang, man. This is somebody I've wanted to have on the show for a long time, man. Hip-hop historian, one of the most trusted voices in the UK. Fuck the UK. In hip-hop, I trust this guy when it comes to hip-hop commentary, wrestling commentary. I'm going to let him do the honors of introducing himself. Please, sir, tell the people who you are and what you're about.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is Chris Mitchell, aka The Actual Factual. Hip-hop historian, you know, is something I aspire to be. I don't know if I can wear that hat right now, but I will graciously accept that cosign from you. Wrestling enthusiast. I love hip-hop. I love the culture. I'm an advocate for it. I'm proud to be a part of it, a spectator, a contributor, in some days, or in some ways rather, a defender of the culture. And I'm just happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me. I'm a fan of the show. I am a fan of you. And when you sent out the invite and threw up the bat signal, I cleared the diary, bro.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have. Like, obviously, like last year, 2024 was a crazy year in hip hop, especially people of like the blog era generation. That was a special thing. So like, but this is going to be a discussion just about hip hop, the evolution of hip hop, and two generations kind of just sitting down and having that talk, because I feel like there's so much divisiveness when it comes to like hip hop thought discourse. Like, hey, the old heads saying, you young kids don't know nothing, and then us younger lot being kind of ignorant and dismissive of like what came before. And I feel like with you, you're somebody who obviously, you know, you grew up in the golden era of hip hop.
Yeah, I was fortunate to experience it real time.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know it was the golden era at the time. So that's really important. Like, you know, being a kid in the 90s, buying classic albums on a weekly basis. I mean, you know, Ready to Die would come out end of September, and a few months before that, you know, you had Outkast's first album. A few months before that, there's Black Moon. And even though I heard those albums later, but for a hip hop fan during that time, you're buying all these albums listed, like it was a constant stream of quality music, not necessarily volume, but quality music. So yeah, growing up in the golden era, it was a blessing, and I'm glad I experienced it in real time.
So let's stay there for a second. Music consumption. Obviously, right now I have the privilege of going onto my phone, Spotify. Heck, Spotify's algorithm will even tell me, you like this rapper?
Yep.
Go into that rapper. But you guys it was basically like word of mouth and consumption, and we're on the other side of the pond. So like, what is your hip hop origin story?
So my hip hop origin story, and I'm going to condense this, it's a 4-stage act. Okay. So my first favorite rapper ever in the history of life was MC Hammer. So when You Can't Touch This came out, it was like a comet hit Earth. I'm 10 years old. So that was my gateway drug into hip hop. It's commercial, you can dance, it was a fun record. You know, I've come to realize that the older guys at the time, and they were vocal about it, that wasn't real hip hop to them at the time. But remember, I'm 9-10 years old. So it felt good to me.
So, quick question, Turtle. So what were they considering real hip hop to counteract MC Hammer? What were they saying? You don't need to listen to MC Hammer, listen to this guy. Who were the real rappers for them lot?
Public Enemy, LL Cool J, NWA. Those are some of the names that come to mind.
Okay.
So shortly after You Can't Touch It, I think it was around about the same time, my memory's hazy, Criss Cross. So to see Criss Cross, who were my age at the time, let me know that I didn't just have to be a spectator.
Yeah.
I could be a contributor. So I started writing my own rhymes like shortly after Criss Cross dropped. And the fact that they were both Christophers, and I'm a Christopher, it's just that familiarity. Yeah. And 1993, I remember being at secondary school and I was given the first Wu-Tang album with the wrong track list. The titles are all wrong. Took the tape home that night, and it wasn't even the songs that hit me, it was the skits. You know, where like they introduce
The
themselves, like,
Shaolin, yeah.
the rebel lioness. He see you sit there, know you watch, he watch you. He see you sit there, play yourself and all that, and he the inspector. Like that stuff grabbed me because it felt like I was in the middle of a soap opera. I'm just watching it all unfold. And then I can truly say, and I always have to give him props, my friend, good family friend, K.I.N.E.T.I.K. I remember I used to go to his house a lot, and he used to have the box, the video, where they used to play the videos, and he would have the handwritten track list. We record all the videos on the box, and he gave me what I now know as a care package. So in this care package, bro, I had 93 Till Infinity from Souls of Mischief. I had Mobb Deep's Infamous, Lab Cabin California, The Far Side, and a few other albums. And that was when I can say I truly like fell in love with hip hop as a musical genre. And I really dived deep in it, and I've been in it ever since.
Nah, it's crazy how like that little care package will go on to like, not like, he basically gave you like pieces of history.
Yeah.
He gave you like stuff that if there was a hip hop museum, those albums would be there.
Yeah, it's like when I was at university, every module had what they call a required reading list.
Yeah.
These are the books you need to read and understand on a ground level just to pass this module.
Yeah.
I would put all of those albums I mentioned in the required listening for hip hop heads.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like or enjoy them, listen to them at least once.
How is it for you? How back then would you say obviously hip hop was a growing genre, but I don't. This is from looking backwards. I don't think it was like the mainstream phenomenon that it is now, or was it?
Well, from what I can remember, towards the late 90s, hip hop really exploded.
Yeah.
And
The
became
shiny
like
suit era.
Yeah, it became like the biggest selling genre. I've come to realize a lot of what I know now is in hindsight, bro.
Yeah.
So like, for me in 1996, for example, when Exhibit dropped his first album, to me, he was like the biggest, best rapper in the world, for example. Years later, I realized it's like the album only went gold. And when I say only went gold, that's 500,000 copies. That's still a lot of albums. But in my world, he was like the biggest thing.
Yeah.
In the school playground, he was the biggest thing. But definitely like 97, 98, 99, that's when things got a bit mad. And you saw the videos, the budgets were bigger.
Yeah.
Like I remember Puffy's videos. I know we're not supposed to talk about him, but he was a part of that era.
Yeah.
And money was around. Money was around, and records were definitely selling. The record shops were full.
Yeah. How does it feel? Let's just say, because I feel like now, in recent memory, we're finally seeing rappers embrace being old. I think a lot of the time, like, hip hop was always called the young man's game. It's like, and to the degree, like, it still is. Like, youth is a depreciating asset, but it's still an asset in hip hop. But now, we're getting, legends of the game, Busta Rhymes, still releasing project. How does it feel to see hip hop age, but the older rappers aren't being phased out? They still have a place within the culture. How does that feel for you?
It makes me nervous and proud.
Okay.
So nervous in the sense because I'm an MC too, and I'm 42, and I feel really insecure about my age.
Okay.
I feel really insecure. I got grey hairs. Like I got a trim this morning for this podcast, and the barber was like, "Lo, let me shave the hair on the inside of your ears." I'm like, "Yo, I got hair on the inside of my ears now." Like, so I'm nervous about that aspect of it, and I battle daily with the idea of, should I even still be rapping and putting out music? But it's good to see older people still within hip hop culture making music, producing, rapping, etc. Hip hop is still quite young when you compare it to other genres.
Yes.
And I've always believed that hip hop has it's a young man's game to some degree. Like I remember in 1990, I was told that LL Cool J was considered old. Bear in mind, his debut dropped 5 years before that.
Yeah.
So when he said on that album, Mama Said Knock You Out, don't call it a comeback, it was a comeback, bro. Because a lot of people was telling me, LL Cool J we were moving on. But it's great to see older people because it gives you that perspective, and it gives you the perspective in musical form that you can only get from life experience and from aging. Like, I love the fact that Pusha T can still rap about drugs.
Yeah.
But do it in a more kind of mature, abstract, intellectual, introspective way.
Yeah.
Fonte, Fonte from Little Brother, Jay-Z, and we'll get into Jay-Z later, but it's really important that mics aren't turned off when someone hits 30, because 30 is not old. I truly believe had Easy E lived past the age of 31, I would love to know what would Easy be like as a Easy E be
Yeah.
like as a 50-year-old MC, record executive,
Yeah.
grandfather. And it's really dangerous if we put an age limit on hip hop, because what you're doing is cutting out generations of information.
And hip hop is a storytelling medium, and stories don't end at 30.
Right. See, listen, like, that's why you do what you do, man. That's good. I'm gonna use that. That's good.
Stories don't end. I feel like it's like we grew up listening to Nas and me, like Kendrick telling his story, but his story a lot of the time, again, and sometimes it is due to some of rappers, unfortunately, you know, meeting their end before they even reach their 30s. But there are more stories to tell. I think this is reminds me of the whole conversation that Andre 3000 is having about, like, what am I going to talk about? A colonoscopy? No, but I want to see a rapper talk about the being in the medium and seeing the medium reach where it is.
Yeah.
I want to see those perspectives. I want to see us talk about hip hop as an art form.
Right.
Like, how do you feel about where the art form is? And don't just come with the you young niggas don't know anything. Talk to us, or talk to us about, okay, the maturity. Okay, let's say, for example, student releases an album now. We just spoke about before. Student was saying, bitches and hoes, and now he's got grandkids.
Yeah.
How as a man do you look at your younger self? Like, these are perspectives
Right.
that I want to hear. So, but you can't hear those perspectives if you just shut off
Right.
an age group.
And if you listen to Snoop's album that he just dropped, Missionary, it's not the Snoop of 93, 94. He's having fun. It's more mature. You know, he might say, you know, certain words to describe women, but it's different. It's very different. And I think, you know, seeing rappers and DJs and producers age gracefully,
Yes,
and mature, it's a beautiful thing to me, even though I'm nervous personally and insecure, like I said, but I do enjoy it, because I'm 42 and I need people who can speak to what I'm going through now and what I'm going to go through in a few years. So I got a song called No Country for Old Heads. It's unreleased, but it's coming out. And I talk about the 8 signs of aging. It's tongue in cheek, and I'm talking about the fact that, you know, I don't go out and buy all the latest clothes.
yeah,
I wait for the sales.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not coming to your party. If you want to go out and turn up, I won't turn up. You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's important that we have a mix of experiences. And I think for any culture to thrive, or any community to thrive, you need a mix of young, middle-aged, and old. You need an exchange of information. No one talking down or talking at or talking over anyone. And the last thing I'll say on this is that I'm a big believer that when old school meets new school, you get the now school.
Yeah. Yeah. Because this is going to sound crazy, yeah? But my first ever time hearing Method Man rap was because of the ASAP crew, ASAP Nast. They had a song called, oh my God. I can't remember what the song school was. I got a funky style and a funky style. And I got a funky swag and a funky style.
Right.
And I heard Method Man, he had the best verse, right? And I must have been like maybe like 13. And I was like, I'd heard of Wu-Tang.
Right.
But I was like, I've never heard Wu-Tang. Okay, 36 Chambers.
Okay.
Right. Then, from there, it kind of spiraled into like, okay, I started being hyper obsessed with RZA. And then RZA had a song with MF Doom.
Biochemical Equation.
Yeah.
Love that song.
And then I think Art of War with MF Doom. And then it spiraled into there. Because my hip-hop origin story, hip-hop was like hip-hop for me, I didn't discover it. It was just there. For like, when I saw the TV, like I saw, like, again, we can't talk about him, but Mr. Shiny Puffy Suit guy.
Yeah.
I saw him and make that. I think More Money, More Problems is one of my first hip hop memories.
Right.
In terms of, I used to see that on TV. And like, my mom's an African woman, right? So like, she wasn't necessarily listening to rap music, but when that song came up, I'd see her do a little two-step in the kitchen. So I'm like, okay, this is
one of those.
This is lit. And more importantly, I think, to see us on TV.
That's important. Representation.
To see us on TV.
Right.
And then hip hop was kind of the thing where it was, like, I wouldn't say I was hip hop fan, but hip hop was just so part of the mainstream consciousness that it was unavoidable. When I became a hip hop fan is when I'd listen to interviews of rappers that I liked and then be like, this album changed my life.
Okay.
And for me, I'm the type of person, I like to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can see that.
Why do you like this? Okay, I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to this. And then I think the rapper that I became obsessed with from early was Andre 3000. every like just the thing about I loved about Andre was like even all rappers are poet, but Andre captured the poetry in hip hop. It's you could say, yeah, like for example, like, especially when Andre has some of like the best like approaching women verses ever.
Oh yeah.
Some of the best
Oh yeah.
approaching
Saucy.
women.
Saucy poetry.
Just it's oh my god.
Yeah. It's saucy, bro. Like no, don't leave your girl around Andre.
Like he will
Don't do
like
that.
he will flower serenade her with different
don't do that.
words.
He speaks petals.
And then, but a lot of the time when I was getting into hip hop, I thought I was playing catch up. And then the rapper that obviously that kind of made me like a hip hop fan before it was Kendrick, it was Drake.
Yeah,
it was
makes
Drake.
sense.
It was Drake. Drake, yeah, like even if you listen to the podcast, you know I'm not a fan of this guy right now.
Yeah.
And I haven't been a fan of him for like the last almost 10 years, let's say 6 years.
Okay.
But that obviously Take Care project, the Thank Me Later, all of those different EPs and projects that Drake was releasing, like the song Trey Song with Trey Song Successful.
Right.
I was like, who is this guy?
Interesting.
Who is this guy? Because I think what had happened was, I think I was somebody who, as much as I admired 50, I admired DMX's, I know myself, I know my reality. I ain't never sold a brick. I ain't in the hood. I ain't beat up a guy.
Yeah.
And in my like 12, 13-year-old self, when, you know, I'm going through puberty, the first thing on my mind is women.
Yeah.
So
but it's interesting because I was your age.
Yeah.
When Infamous came out and I wasn't doing what they was doing. But I loved it though.
The thing is, you love it, yeah. The thing is, there's always stuff to love. Don't get it twisted. When the G Unit era was, I was like in primary school. But man, them were really rocking up. Bulletproof vests.
In primary school?
What? Listen, I had 50 Cent. Listen, I remember the shit. There was one white guy at my school, yeah. He had 50 Cent Bulletproof, the video game.
Oh, yeah.
He gave it to man. What? I thought, what? Listen, I thought, and listen, when 50 Cent Get Rich or Die Trying came out, even though I knew, we were all kids, we knew we weren't about that life. We wanted to be it, emulate it, all of that type of stuff. But as I got older, I realized, do you know what? As much as I love this stuff, 50 Cent and them lot felt like seeing an action movie. I can see that. It felt like seeing an action movie where I love this, but then when Drake came out, it's kind of, the stuff people would clown him for was stuff I rated. The sensitivity, the transparency, the kind of, hey, I don't quite fit in, and this medium doesn't have a space for me, but I'm gonna make space for me.
Okay.
But then when I listen to Kendrick, the title of that album speaks to my entire existence.
Me too.
Good Kid, Mad City.
Yep. You're in it, but you're not of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I feel the same.
And that album there, from the first track, Shireen, Master Splinter's daughter.
Yep.
The store, like I haven't been to LA, but I can see palm trees. I can see the house, and that album for me, just the entire ethos of that album. I listened to that album when I was in 2012. We're now in 2025, and I still go back to that album, and I'm learning things. Yeah. And I'm going back to that album. It's like, yeah, I don't necessarily have cousins who gangbang or whatever, but there's certain parallels to that life that I see, and the authenticity of the album I see. And then from there, it just created like a spiral of like love and hip hop. And for me, I feel like, especially as a younger hip hop fan, I always think it's important to do your research.
It is.
And because if you love a medium, you need to study it. Now, there'll be albums that I obviously miss out on because I wasn't of the times. But if you can educate yourself, and if you can educate yourself, it will make your experience as a hip hop fan so much more enriching, because now you know, oh my God, this came from this.
Yeah, you connect the dots.
You connect the dots.
You're looking at the lineage of history. Like I have this thing where I want to know who influenced who.
Yes.
So when I heard Kendrick, I heard Andre 3000.
Yeah.
I heard Sugar Free. I heard remnants of, and this is going to be very left, but I heard remnants of like BG from Cash Money.
Okay.
I heard the Snoop influences.
Yeah.
You know, like, And because Kendrick is an old soul, and when you look at, To Pimp a Butterfly, because that's my favorite Kendrick album.
Same.
When you play that album, I smell chicken and cocoa butter immediately. Like, that's
you
a
hear the,
black
like,
album.
You hear the Isley Brothers,
Bro,
You
it's
hear,
one of those.
Yeah, you hear the soul,
Right.
like
it's one of those.
Like you hear, I hear Al Green.
Come on. It's Bear Palmers and Shea Butter in the air. So you listen to that album and you hear the connection to soul and,
Yes.
Jazz, and even like, Thundercat and Sarah, creative
Absolutely.
partners and all that. I love connecting the dots. And my thing is this, even if you go back and listen and you may not necessarily enjoy or identify with something, it's important to at least listen to it and be aware of its existence and place in the continuum. So, for example, I wasn't outside when Run DMC was running the world. I wasn't there. But I went back and I listened to Raising Hell. And to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of the album. I'm not crazy of it. It sounds dated to me. However, I know that in the continuum of hip hop and history and what Run DMC means and what that album means, I have to respect it. Because without that, I wouldn't have this.
Yeah.
But I do feel for younger hip hop fans and more modern hip hop fans, because you're in a dilemma right now.
Okay.
So when I was outside, and I don't mean to age myself, when I say I was outside, like in my school days, like albums were coming out, weekly, but you could go to the record store and choose what you want, or you say, you know what, I'm going to miss this one today and I'm going to get this, etc. And there was more time to live with the music. It's hard for you and the younger generation to catch up on music when you're trying to keep up with music. How much music is released on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And you've got to keep up with it. I don't envy you, bro.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like, even me, right? I'm only like 27, right? And I'm like, who's this rapper?
See what I mean?
Who's the rapper that came out? I think, and especially during like this type of era, you've got apps like TikTok, so on and so forth, where there's no time for albums to breathe. It's about what have you got next. Even like an artist can release an album today. A years later, certain fans are asking, where's the next one?
Yeah. And that's weird. That was weird for me for a long time. Yeah. So I grew up loving Redman. To this day, Redman, top 5. Reggie Noble, respect, every time. Redman used to drop albums every 2 years. So even in between that, you had the freestyles, you'd be on the radio and stuff like that, and you'd get it later or someone dubbed the tape for you. I was used to letting albums breathe. I remember when Jay-Z dropped Reasonable Doubt in 96, June 96, and then his second album came out in 97. I was like, what, already?
Yeah.
I'm still listening to Reasonable Doubt. And then he dropped an album every year, and then I kind of got used to that.
So do you, a lot of people basically say Jay changed kind of the format in terms of like album releases, and he made the standards that us fans have now today in terms of yearly releases, which I don't agree with personally. I don't believe in yearly releases. I think you need, good food takes time.
Yeah, you need time to live and breathe and have new experiences to write about and all that stuff.
You need, and I feel like disappearing and coming back. That's why the air of mystique around certain artists isn't the same anymore. Yeah. And granted, this is all like record label corporations. They incentivize artists to drop more often.
That's right.
So like sometimes, at the end of the day, as much as we love, the culture, as much as we love the medium, hey, food's got to be put on the table. And if it means that I got to drop every year, I got to drop every year. But missing you, then coming back, like we're gonna get into this, but part of the whole reason why the whole Kendrick Drake thing was mad because Kendrick was dropping at a rate we didn't see him drop before.
And it was exciting.
And it was exciting.
And then he left.
And then he left.
And then came back.
And that's kind of what I want to get into in terms of like the reason why that was such an important period, such a magical moment, is because he really felt like the boogeyman. He really felt like the boogeyman. He really felt like, because Kendrick's somebody where, and this is what I like about all of my artists, everything I know about you, I know through the art form.
Okay.
I know, obviously, we live in a tabloid era, so scandal here, scandal there. But why do I know that Top Dog almost shot Kendrick's dad? Because of Duckworth.
Right.
Every piece of information that I know about you comes from your artistry.
It's not a word of mouth thing.
It comes from your artistry, and you've been able, and you know how skilled you have to be to tell your story, and not only be able to bop my head in a song, but I remember your story.
Dude, Duckworth messed me up when I heard it. First of all, produced by Ninth Wonder, one of my all-time favorite producers. And I said, you know what I think Kendrick's biggest strength as an MC is? His timing. How do you sit on a story like that and drop it on your third album? Like, come on, bro. You knew you were going to tell this story. Like, me personally, if my label head nearly shot my dad, that's coming out on the first album.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll say it prematurely. But when he saved that for the third album, I was like, nah, this guy's different, but he knew what he was doing. Like, even when he released Black of the Berry the night after that big award show, the timing. Look at what he did with the battle. When he released Meet the Grahams,
yeah.
And then 20 minutes later, Not Like Us, I was like, huh?
You gotta deep it. That was only like 4 days, because Euphoria came out, and then he dropped 616 in LA. Then it was like, cool, something's come, and then Drake dropped Family Matters. Then it was like a constant wave.
Dude, it was mad. And he was addressing criticisms, because a lot of people say, oh, Kendrick doesn't drop often.
Yeah.
And that's not to turn this into like a Drake Kendrick thing, but one of my favorite things about that battle is that Kendrick addressed so many criticisms.
Yes.
Oh, he don't have catchy lines. Okay, yes. you got Not Like Us. You can't make hits, Not Like Us. Like, Meet the Grahams is my favorite song in that whole thing. Bro, you're talking to this man's child. He said, when you're 16. When that child is 16, that song is going to have a whole new life.
That final verse of Meet the Grams.
You lied.
Like,
you lied. Dude, when you start, look, this is not a battle no more. I'm now going to deconstruct you as a human being. And that's why when you look at the Pusha T and the Kendrick thing, bars and hip hop aside, what those two men did is that they had the world looking at you differently as a human being and as a man.
Because what's Pusha T's opening line? Ghostwriting aside, let's have a heart to heart and talk about your pride. It's attacking, like, and that's why, Not Like Us was the anthem. Like, he needed that to like kind of captivate the masses. But when I'm listening to like Euphoria and listening to Meet the Grams, this is a personal attack.
He don't like him.
This is like Not Like Us is like the grenade boom, everyone. But this
Molotov
was pinpoint snap.
Yeah, he don't like him.
Yeah,
and it's okay not to like people. I'm glad Kendrick brought that energy back. Like, when you don't like someone, it's fine.
Let me say I'm the biggest hater.
Yeah, man.
Let me ask you this: at what point did you feel the most disconnected from hip hop?
I would say it would be, there's a period between 2001 and 2003.
Really?
Yeah. So 2001, The Blueprint came out. Love that album.
Yeah.
To this day, but I needed something that spoke to where I was at that time, as someone who had just come out of his teen years and is now on the doorstep of young adulthood. So I'm 20, 21, 22. And that's when I discovered, life changed actually, when I got my first computer at that age, because I had just gone to uni, and then I had an internet connection. Yeah. And then I remember buying the Source magazine, and there was a review of the Little Brother album, The Listening, and they said this is the most cohesive album since The Blueprint. Never heard of them before. So between 2001, 2003, I was listening to hip hop more as a creature of habit.
Yeah.
It's what you're supposed to listen to. But then when I discovered Little Brother, and it opened up this rabbit hole that I ended up listening to Tanya Morgan and Strange Fruit Project, then I discovered Def Jux LP and Mr. Liff, and then you got Rhyme Sayers, I discovered Blueprint and RJD2. I ended up finding the soundtrack to my young adulthood that I was looking for, and I'm still on that path today. So I would say between 2001, 2003, that was the point in hip hop. I felt a little disconnected, but I think it's more so because I wasn't sure of who I was or where I wanted to go in life.
Do you know that's interesting? Because I low-key, I low-key would have thought you said the 2010s.
Yeah, but by the 2010s, I knew where to get what I wanted. So when people tell me, oh, it's been a great year for hip hop, my argument is every year is a great year for hip hop when you know where to get what you want. To me, there's no bad years, because I get everything I want. I know where to get it. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm a proactive fan.
Yeah, and that's an astute point, because I feel like a lot of the time, and this is where I'm gonna get onto consumers. I've always made the argument that if you want something, you have to go out and search for it. I feel like too many consumers want something that's placed on their lap.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, what happened to rappers rapping?
It's been there.
They've been there.
Or what happened to bridges in R&B? You're just telling me you don't listen to enough R&B?
Yeah. And there are artists of your era that are doing it, but also of new era that are doing it.
Absolutely.
And I feel like as consumers, a lot of the time we get too lazy, and it comes from, at the end of the day, a lot of people, even in my generation, right, a lot of the tastes that we had were from the labels. Why do I say this? We go on whatever music channel. It's a curated playlist every time. It's the same. Go on the radio. It's the same curated playlist every time. So what is conditioning to do is, if music doesn't sound like this, it's not valid. It's not accepted. Where as music, and then when that music becomes out of fashion, I don't know anything else. When that music eventually, because it's a cycle, when that music becomes out of fashion, I'm so attached to this, and this is so ingrained to my music experience that I don't have the foresight to see anything else.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like as consumers, you have to, like, it's the same thing, like, and sometimes people look at like, oh my God, why do I have to do so much work to enjoy the mediums I love? Because it's more fulfilling.
Yeah, and you've got like, dude, I agree with you 100%. You're talking to someone that used to walk an hour to a record store just to buy one album.
Yeah.
You know, I remember the day Wu-Tang dropped their second album. I tell this story all the time. We had double IT. That was 2 hours. Every man put their money together. One person went out and bought the album, and because it's double IT, we had all our computers, and we burnt copies for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, if you want the good stuff, you have to go and find it. Don't rely on these algorithms. I'll tell you a story. So there was an album my wife put me onto recently, and you know what? I can't remember. It's a jazz type album.
Okay.
Robert Glasper's on it.
Oof.
Pharoah Monch, Alex Isley.
Yeah.
So these are artists that I have in my iTunes, or see how old I am, in my library of music I own that I've paid for. Do you know the algorithm did not recommend this album to me one time?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, but this is my taste. Why have you not recommended? But there'll be Trippy Red. There'll be Sexy Red. And I'm like, what is in my library right now? What is it I've pressed play on that would suggest that this is what I want to listen to right now? So I can't even trust the algorithm no more.
Yeah. Were you a fan of Trina?
Trina was cool.
Yeah.
Trina was cool. I wasn't the biggest fan though, but she was cool.
Yeah, like you mentioned Sexy Red, and I was like, Sexy Red's basically our new Trina.
Yeah, Trina was cool. Like I've been fortunate enough to, like, I've been to Miami like 3 times. I went 3 times in 3, and Trina was big at the time. I was in Miami when Diamond Princess album dropped, and she had the tune with Ludacris, Be Alright. Big.
Yeah.
Big. I like Trina, but there's other MCs that I prefer.
Yeah, of course.
That kind of vein and ilk.
Yeah, well, like who?
Little Kim. Little Kim. I grew up listening to. I love Little Kim. Foxy Brown.
Yeah.
If we're talking about MCs who are women, Little Kim, Foxy Brown, Jean Grey, Love Rhapsody.
Yeah.
Doechii is my favorite rapper right now.
Doechii's phenomenal.
Who else do I like? I could get really nichey and nerdy. Queen Latifah's obvious.
Yeah.
Hurricane G, loved her voice. She was amazing. Yeah, there's a few of them that come to mind. Heather B. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting nerdy now.
No, but it's
Heather B. and Rah Digga. Oh my, listen, can't forget Rah Digga. Can't forget Dirty Harriet. If you've not heard Dirty Harriet.
Okay, I'm alright. Dirty Harriet.
Dirty Harriet. Harriet Thugman. Are you mad? What?
Harriet, that's crazy. That's
her alias. Harriet
that's
Thugman.
Crazy. That is crazy.
Love Rah Digga.
That's crazy.
Nonchalant. Yo. MC Light. There's a list of them, man.
Nah, but yeah, it's just, I feel like as consumers, as lovers of a medium, if anything, like you have to. It's like, for example, it's like I could go out, right, and order McDonald's every day for the rest of my life. But if I want good food, and if I want to expand my palate, I'm gonna have to go into the kitchen, and I might fuck up a couple meals.
You will, yeah, you will.
I'll fuck up a couple meals.
You got to dash the wrong seasoning in a couple times. Mess up the herbs a bit.
But you see, once I find my palate, and I'm like, do you know what? I like this. What if I start mixing this and that?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to like buy more seasonings, buy different ingredients, and now I'm discovering the wonders of cooking.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
and that's the thing about music. It's like you will sit through a few albums that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I went from not getting Cypress Hill to loving them.
Wow. Yeah, you got to tell me that story. What Cypress Hill album did you listen to first?
Let me see. Because I've got it listed. Yeah.
Shout out to my boy Jameson. So my best friend in the whole world is a Cypress Hill stan / disciple. Like listen, I'm gonna tell him this story, man. He loves Cypress
Temples
Hill.
of Boom.
That's my favorite Cypress
Temples
album.
of Boom.
That's a good start. It's a good start. That's the third album, though.
Because obviously it was like come through,
Yeah.
I was like, but then all of a sudden I was like, it just one day it just hit me.
It hit you, innit? Yeah. Sometimes that happens because palates need to mature.
It hit me, and then I would say like they're not quite Cypress Hill, but I'd say like a newer contemporary that I'd compare to Cypress Hill in terms of like just the outlandish, like the Flatbush Zombies.
Yeah, I've got what album I got? 3001?
A Laced Odyssey.
Yeah, I got that album.
Darko, like what else? Because I literally like gone from listening to Cypress Hill and then I listened to Flatbush Zombies, A Laced Odyssey, and I was like, yeah, I need this weirdo rap.
Okay, so you see how you're connecting the dots in terms of your taste, and that's why it's so important. I love what you said about the palate, bro. So when my sister had her twins, she said when they were babies, she gave them different types of food. When they were toddlers, she gave them as many different types of food as possible to expand their palate, so that when they got older, they were used to how different things taste and the textures and stuff like that. So now, at the age of 15, they eat anything. Yeah. Not to say we're gonna give them anything, but their palates are like they'll eat everything and anything, right? And it's the same with music. You've got to listen to as many different genres as possible. And you can always come back to hip hop because everybody has their favorite dish that they want to eat and their favorite restaurant they want to go to. But what I love about hip hop, and not to go off on a tangent, is that it's one of the only musical genres that's informed or influenced by everything else because of the samples and the influences. Like you listen to Outkast.
Yes.
I hear Outkast, and what drew me to them, I'm like, these men don't just listen to rap.
No.
They listen to, like, you can't make an album like Aquemini in one box.
No.
You can't do it. And that's what I love about Outkast, and that's what I love about the younger generation too. Because you approach music with a genreless mentality.
Yeah.
And you sticking on the cooking analogy, you man will throw everything in there, bruv. Like, look at Kendrick, like, just have random Spanish people just talking on the tune. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the fearlessness of the approach.
And even if you mention like Trippie Redd, the XS Tentacions, them man grew up on rock.
Yeah.
Pop, them man grew up on rock.
You can hear it.
You can hear it in their music. Just to say, and that's the thing. Back to that growing up, like I like we said about being genreless, because we went from literally on the same like music channels we're watching. I went from listening to 50 Cent, and then Panic! At the Disco will be right next to it.
Right.
Then Paramore will be right next to it.
Yeah,
then Nirvana would be.
Your generation love Paramore, you know.
I've seen Paramore live.
Listen.
I
did it. Yeah, you man go in for Paramore.
Listen.
Was it Hayley Williams?
Hayley Williams, no.
Yeah,
listen.
she got a black pass.
What?
She got a black pass.
She put gospel. There was Ain't It Fun? There's literally a gospel choir in that song. Like,
yeah, you lot love Paramore.
Look, and you know, do you know what I love about Hayley Williams? So I went to see Paramore live, yeah, and then she said, "You can call me Miss Hayley if you're nasty." And we know where that's from.
Is that what Hayley? Is that what you're doing? Yeah,
we know where that's. And I was like, but yeah, I feel like the generation. I feel like what's happened with the internet era is it's empowered artists to go outside the norm. Because I was watching the Kanye documentary, right?
Mm-hmm. Genius.
And a lot of the pushback with Kanye is that he didn't fit into the archetype of a rapper where street credibility was there. Like, he didn't really have that. He was in between two worlds, because he wasn't quite backpack, even though he adopted a lot of the backpack aesthetics, and he came up with, like, you know, he's got the song with Mos Def, you know, he's got songs with Consequence and all of them, like Slum Village, but he was able to forge a lane for himself. And then when you see albums like 808s and Heartbreaks, whether you like it or not, it pushed the mold of what hip hop could be. You got man them sampling Daft Punk.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
And it introduced Daft Punk to a whole new generation of
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Daft Punk. I remember like when Graduation. That album was crazy.
I'm insane.
That album was
Like
nuts.
Kanye's discography is like, in my opinion, from the artist I like. He has probably the best discography.
His discography is strong. I think he's got a couple of blips,
Yeah,
but it's strong. I think those first 3 albums are classics, and I think required listening. I mentioned required listening before.
Yeah.
Kanye West's first 3 albums are required listening.
Yeah.
For any hip hop fan.
I'd put Kanye classics on this. For me, is obviously Graduation, Late Registration, College Dropout, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Do you know what? I wasn't one of the people who said My Dark Twisted Fantasy was a classic, but so many people have screamed at me and shouted at me about that album being a classic. I had to back down.
Bro,
I had to back down.
Bro, you got to deepen that album, yeah? Because obviously you've got like the major hits like All of the Lights, Power. You've got one of the most iconic female verses of all time in Monster.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got one of a legendary posse cut in So Appalled.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got one of Rick Ross's best verse on Devil in the New. Just like
That beat was crazy.
That beat, like if you go back to the album, yeah, and we talk about like performances and rappers bringing the best out of rappers. That album brought the best out of a lot of rappers.
Yeah, there was a lot of moments on it. I really, and this is not usually what I talk about. I really like the rollout of that album with the Good Fridays. Like,
sensational.
They've missed a trick. That Good Friday, all those Good Friday songs need to be a whole album. They need to compile it and release it as an official release. I will go to the shop and I will walk an hour to the record shop and buy it.
Yeah. Before, as you know, I'd consider you a Jay-Z enthusiast.
Mm?
And this is an abstract question, but I've always wanted to ask, what does Jay-Z mean to you? More important, what does Jay-Z mean to hip hop?
I feel emotional. So my entry point to Jay-Z was Reasonable Doubt. And as you know, we shout out to Summit, our co-host on Breaking Atoms. So we did a 5-part audio documentary on the making of Reasonable Doubt. So what Jay-Z means to me starts with Reasonable Doubt, because he showed me the how and the why behind the what. So he wasn't the first rapper to talk about street stuff and hustling and drugs and money and capitalism, but he really detailed the perils of it in such detail. It was like someone was whispering in your ear at a party. It was intimate conversations. Like, I listened to him and felt like he was talking to me and only me. I love the fact that his voice wasn't necessarily gruff or deep. It was quite smooth. It was quite high pitched. He sounded like someone or people that we knew every day. So Jay-Z, for me, he is a journalist. He is a poet. He's one of the most elite writers. He is someone that challenged my train of thought and made me think more expansively as to what hip hop could be. And he really put a magnifying glass on that world of, like hustling and drug dealing. And, to some degree, I take it really personal when people say, oh, he was just a drug dealer, or he was just this. He really shone a light on the human consciousness and that conflict that comes from doing what you have to do, even though it may not necessarily be good and you may not necessarily be enjoying it, and that constant to and fro and pull. And the way he's detailed that, that's what he means. That's what he means to me. That he humanized. It's like The Wire. That's The Wire is a show that really humanizes people. That for example, when Bodie and Wallace have their thing, and Bodie and Poot, and Poot and Bodie shoot Wallace. They've just killed someone. But you don't hate them afterwards. You don't boo them. It's like, oh, they were put in that position. They were forced to do that. And Reasonable Doubt does that for me. What does Jay-Z mean to hip hop? He means many things, bro. I don't think he means just one thing. I think in terms of elite lyricism, particularly for a certain era, from the early 90s onwards, elite lyricism, always in the conversation, always drop quality music. And that's not to say everything was great and amazing, but I believe most of it was. In terms of being a businessman, he achieved everything that he said he was going to achieve. Jay-Z is an ambassador. He can be in rooms, he can talk to people that at the White House. He can walk into, Samsung and say, I'm going to put my album on 1 million phones and you're going to sell it for me. He's a man of influence. He's a man of network. He's a man of connections. What he does for social justice and, legal reform and those things. So he does many different things. But I think most importantly, what Jay-Z means for hip hop is that you can be whatever it is you want to be, and you shouldn't confine yourself or this culture to one box.
Well, so there's two main critiques I've heard over the years about Jay, right? One of them is a hip hop critique, and one of them is more like personal critique. Nothing mad. The personal one is what Jay did to Dame Rockefeller.
What did he do?
Undercut Dame. And in terms of, and now the culture looks at Dame a certain way, right? I'm gonna pose to you the question: does the whole kind of Jay-Z's acquisition or Jay-Z's basically taking over, is that a stain on his legacy, or do you just view that as shit had to get done?
I see both sides, man. So based on what you're saying, yes, like in business, sometimes tough decisions need to be made. And that's why sometimes, I'm not the best businessman because I can't make tough decisions sometimes. You know what I'm saying? In an ideal world, if God came down from the sky and said, do you want Rock Nation or Rockefeller? I'm saying I want Rockefeller back. I want Rockefeller back. Because I don't know what really went on between them, but one thing I do know is that Dame Dash, to me, seemed to be someone who fought for his artists. And he advocated for his artists. And I think we need more Dame Dashes. Not less.
Ooh.
We need more. We need people that will walk into a room and say, nah, this is my artist. This is my label. What are you doing? We need more of that. But at the same time, when you think about a Rock Nation and how many people are employed, how many families are being fed. Like, one thing I love about Jay-Z is that he has successful people around him and he's made people successful. I'm a true believer that you are not successful until you have a successor. If Jay-Z drops down tomorrow, people are in position to carry on the thing.
Yeah, there's a verse where he's like, I made millionaires. Oh, what verse is that from?
I can't even remember either, but I know he said something like that.
Millions, they made, Beans made millions. Oh, I'm a fan of the verse.
But I understand the sentiment, right? So I think that's what I really appreciate. I really appreciate that about Jay-Z, and he's kept a lot of the people that he came up with around him. And a lot of people don't do that, and a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah. And then the other hip-hop critique is that he basically bit off Biggie.
I disagree.
Okay.
He references a lot of Biggie's lines, but my question is this. Post-97, or let's say post-94, Ready to Die dropped on September, late September, 94. Who isn't influenced by Biggie? Who isn't?
Especially, yeah.
Nas said, name a rapper that I ain't influenced. Same thing goes for Biggie. Who isn't? I am. I'm here in London. Jay-Z's from Brooklyn. He knew the man. Of course he's inspired by him. When you say bit, it's like, you have to know the difference between biting and paying homage.
Because people say the whole mafioso rap aesthetic was basically, Jay-Z took it to an nth degree, but you could see it in Biggie.
Yeah, but Biggie wasn't the only one either. Like, to be honest with you, you had The Firm.
Yeah.
Cool G Rap did it before all of them. So then they're all biting Cool G Rap then.
Because these are conversations that, because like Jay, like I came into hip hop and Jay was already Jay, right? So for me, when I hear a lot of conversations about his legacy, like for me, it's like, it's all hindsight. It's all like, okay, I know I know Jay. Jay for me it's like, I've come to the world, okay, Jay's the GOAT, okay, cool. But when I hear, conversations of people of the time, these are the questions I want to ask.
Jay has a lot of criticisms and there's been a lot of detractors.
Yeah.
So even on the, the blueprint, he opens up with the rulers back. He came out and said, listen, man, I'm him in it. Then you got Takeover. Like he addressed all of that. And I think some of the criticisms, I understand why they are criticisms. I understand why people are saying it. But then you have to put a light on everyone else. I take certain rappers' lines and flip them because I'm paying homage to you.
Yeah.
I flip Souls of Mischief.
Yeah.
Done it loads of times.
Who wouldn't?
Like, they inspired me.
Yeah.
And what I also like in terms of like rappers sharing lines and tweaking them and flipping them, like, and Jay-Z's no exception, is it's a form of signposting, man.
Yep.
I can argue, I would imagine that some people have discovered Biggie's music because, oh, Jay-Z bit that line from Biggie, and somebody like, who's that? Biggie. All right, let me go down my rabbit hole. Like my friend's son, he's like in his, I think he's 14, 15. Just started getting into hip hop.
Yeah.
Biggie is his favorite rapper.
Literally on GNX, Kendrick has a Biggie line. All these rap niggas, my siblings, they're just my children.
Kicking the door.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's an unfair criticism because I don't want to speak for everyone, but I would argue who is not inspired or influenced by Biggie in some way. You'd be hard to find anyone who isn't.
I'll ask you this: how did Jay recover from Ether? Because that's a part because I know the history.
Yeah.
But it's like, and obviously I've witnessed the rap beef, and obviously I'm not comparing Jay to Drake. But how do you? Because I've seen rap beefs have ended careers.
Yeah.
You've seen Ja Rule, Meek Mill. We don't look at him the same, and now we don't look at Drake the same.
Well, your generation love blood, bro. You lot love blood. You want to see people damaged and disappeared.
Listen,
I just want to hear responses.
I blame 50. I blame 50. What 50 did to Ja in terms of altering up, like Ja Rule. Even I grew up listening to Ja Rule. Ja Rule was inescapable.
Ja Rule had a run, and a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, I'm not a Ja Rule fan." But listen, I'm not the biggest Ja Rule fan, but I would be lying if I said between 98 and 2003. Ja Rule had a 5-year run. He got his 5 years, man.
Honestly,
he got his little window, man. It was a good time.
But like, I feel like the way we was gonna say 50 changed it because we never heard from him again.
We did.
Ben, it wasn't the same.
But what's ironic is that Ja Rule put out, for me anyway, he put out a couple of good albums after that. The RULE album. Remember, he came with New York with Fat Joe and Jadakiss.
Yeah.
That was a comeback, bro.
Yeah. But it's just the way in the history books, Ja Rule will be remembered.
Yeah, that he's now an adjective.
Yeah, you got Ja Rule.
You got Ja Rule.
You got Ja Rule.
It's not good,
And it's like considering how the run Ja Rule was on and it just ended. And then now, like, I think it altered the way we look at Beast because now we're looking for complete domination.
Yes.
And in all beasts, we look for that. Because even Meek Mill was still around. But the perception of Meek changed once Drake did that to him.
Yeah, but Meek messed up himself, innit? Meek messed up himself, bruv. First of all, the guy came back with that 1-0 song. I heard the Undertaker bell.
Yeah.
I said, okay, we're about to get to it.
Yeah.
You don't do a tune with the Undertaker bell and you don't catch no bodies on it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was your first mistake. And then you started rapping about watches. I'm like, and then when Meek Mill said, I came up listening to the Locks, I was like, well, you weren't listening then. Jadakiss and them, man, would never.
Yeah.
You weren't listening, man.
Yeah. I thought, and then that's why I'm not going to beat a dead horse for the Drake and Kendrick topic because, like, I think everyone spoke about that. But that's why, like, I expected Pusha. Well, what's Pusha T did what he did and Drake came back. It was kind of like, oh, this is unexpected. But then it made me go back to the original question, which was Jay and Nas. Because obviously it's not the same circumstances, but Jay went on to still be considered Jay. After that,
from what I can remember, because I remember when Ether dropped, and it was,
keep going.
It was the conversation of the barbershops, the classrooms. Like, we were saying, "Oh man, have you heard this Ether tune? Have you heard this Ether tune? And have you heard Takeover? And like, who won?" I remember going to the train station to buy my train ticket one time, right? And the guy said to me, because I was wearing like a red Rockefeller hoodie, and the guy said to me, who you got, Jay-Z or Nas? I'm like, bruv, I'm just trying to buy my train ticket, bro. And I think what helped Jay to recover, and even the initial response after Ether came out, and I remember Jay-Z going up to the record station, and it was like, he released Super Ugly. We can't forget that. Super Ugly came out after Ether. But I think the impact of Ether and the fact that we did not expect that from Nas, because prior to Stillmatic, which was the album he released in December of that same year, Nas was kind of ropey. Like the last couple of albums he put
Yeah.
out, people was looking at him like.
Would you say that's when the Nas can't peak beats narrative started to like bubble up?
Possibly.
Mm.
Like, yeah, there was a few bad beat choices, but then, you know, I've never really thought that whole thing applied to Nas because look, Illmatic, it was written like to me, it has great production. It's like
Yeah.
there's no producer that wouldn't stop what they're doing for Nas.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes when you say something enough, it can become the narrative. It's like House of Cards, isn't it? Like they kept, you know, if I keep saying you're disorganized, and I keep saying it to people, eventually they're gonna be like, "Oh, he's disorganized,"
and then what becomes is confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. But yeah, like Jay-Z recovered from E for just putting out music. You know, I remember the double album Blueprint 2 came out afterwards. It wasn't a great album. It was a lot of music. But you know, say what you want to say about Jay-Z with the criticism or not, he was very consistent. He kept recording music and he elevated, you know, with business and cultural influence that kind of went outside music. So you had the Reebok deal, for example. Then, you know, Rockefeller expanded its roster, new artists came through, etc. So, you know, to me, it's like when it comes to hip hop battles, bro, I don't want to see it to the point where no one can get up afterwards. Because I don't like that if I'm watching a fight in the real world or when we were younger in school, you don't want to see someone get knocked out to the point they can't stand up and walk away. But that's why I say your generation want blood, bro. You lot want to see people finish, like to the point where I'm talking about hip hop battles with some people, and they'll be like, "Well, he didn't end his career, so what was the point?" I'm like, "But that shouldn't be the end goal, to end someone, like, to stop someone from providing for their family. Come on, man. It's not that serious, man."
Listen, like, we're a generation that grew up playing Mortal Kombat, man. So like,
I grew up listening like Fatality and Raiden and all them, man. I get it, bro. But like. Yeah, I like to see blood, but I also like to see people walk away.
Nah, that's fair. But K.I.N.E.T.I.K, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. Before you go,
yes,
you spoke on this podcast about history and doing your research. What's an album, a project, or even a song that you want to give to the people that they need to do their research on?
From hip hop,
any genre.
I'm gonna go left.
Okay.
I want to share an album that my mum used to play in the house. So a bit about my history is my mum was a choir director.
Okay.
So I was in her belly when she was directing the choir at church. And there's a gospel album by Tremaine Hawkins, and it's her live recording. So just to give you a bit of context, in the gospel arena, similar to wrestling, you have royal families.
Yep.
The Hawkins family are gospel royalty. Edwin Hawkins is the person who wrote Oh Happy Day. So he's very influential in terms of bringing gospel mainstream, etc. So I want to recommend Tremaine Hawkins, the live album. It's crazy. Carlos Santana on guitar, Stanley Turrentine on the organ, and the show is opened up by Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson introduced Tremaine. It's proper gospel, old school singing with the choir. You can watch the whole concert on YouTube and you can buy the album and it's on streaming. So Tremaine Hawkins Live is one of my favorite albums.
Since you've taken it to a different genre, I'm gonna take it to a different one. Listen. I've been in my oldies. I love my oldies. Like people know me low. I love my oldies. But this one is probably like my favorite old head album. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes with Teddy Pendergrass.
You went there.
Listen.
Are you trying to get the whole world pregnant?
Listen.
You need to take time.
Listen.
Yeah.
Listen to I Miss You.
Them man are different, bro.
Listen to I Miss You.
Different gravy. Teddy P.
No, especially if you're ever... listen. If your girl's left you, if your man's left you, listen to I Miss You. And then listen to the monologues. The monologues.
Them man, they would talk on a record for like 10... Like Isaac Hayes would talk for 10 minutes,
What?
Bro.
Listen, there's a line from from a song on the album. The same faces you see going up be the same old faces you see coming down. Biblical shit.
Yeah.
Biblical stuff.
Epistle. It's an epistle. The epistle of Harold Melvin.
But yeah, K.I.N.E.T.I.K, man. Tell the people where they can find you at. Tell the people what you got going on, man.
You can find me in your local barbershop. No, I'm joking. You can find me on social media. I am K.I.N.E.T.I.K. That's K.I.N.E.T.I.K. That's K-I-N-E-T-I-K. Check out the Breaking Atoms podcast, myself and Sumit Sharma, every week, where we travel through the ecosystem of hip hop, interviews, analysis, commentary, all of that. You can check out our audio documentaries on the making of Reasonable Doubt and The Blueprint by Jay-Z. We have another audio documentary coming. I can't share it here. I'm going to tell NK off the mic, but it's coming in May. And you could check out my music on Spotify, K.I.N.E.T.I.K with a K at the end. Brand new EP coming out in the next few months. And I'm just trying to stay busy and creative.
Nah.
And out of the way, like Andy
Appreciate
Peters.
you coming on, man. It's been a pleasure having this conversation.
Thank you for
I'm
having
proper
me.
happy the way this episode turned out. Make sure you check out his stuff. The links to all of his
All of
that will be down below. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe.
I'm on.
But this has been the Rare Podcast 2025. Bigger and better things. We are signing out. Deuces. Catch you on the next one. Peace.